All right, so you're getting ready for an artistic director interview, and you want to come across as confident and prepared to show off what you can do. We're going deep with some of the resources RoleCatcher has, specifically their career guides, and a bunch of sample interview questions to help you totally nail this thing.
Yeah, it's not just about knowing the right answers, it's about understanding what those questions are really trying to figure out about you and presenting yourself as the perfect person for the job.
Exactly. So why don't we start with a quick overview of what an artistic director even does? Just to make sure we're all on the same page here.
Yeah, an artistic director is the one who really sets the artistic vision and direction for an organization, whether that's a theater company or a dance company or really any kind of cultural institution. It's a very strategic role. It involves making decisions about programming, managing finances, leading staff, and shaping the organization's reputation as a whole.
So you're not just an artist. You're a leader. You're a manager. You're a creative visionary. All in one person. That's a lot to do.
It is, and that's why it's so important to get the nuances of the role before going into an interview. And speaking of interviews, the employment outlook for artistic directors is growing, but the competition is really tough, so you have to stand out. And that's where being prepared and understanding the industry comes in.
Yeah, and RoleCatcher can be a big help with that. Their AI can analyze job descriptions, identify keywords, and even recommend ways to make your CV and cover letter better. It's kind of like having your own personal career coach right there with you.
It's all about working smarter, not harder. RoleCatcher's AI can also give you feedback on your interview answers to help you fine-tune what you say and really show off your strengths.
Okay, so let's dive into some of these interview questions. Let's say they ask you, what inspired you to pursue a career as an artistic director? What's the strategy there?
With that question, they're digging into your motivations. They want to see how passionate you are about the arts, but more importantly, your journey as a leader. What experiences led you to this point?
So it's not just about saying, oh, I love theater. You need to tell a story.
Right. Exactly. Think about specific moments that shaped your development as an artist and your leadership style. Maybe it was directing a college production, or leading a community arts program, or even a really challenging project that taught you some valuable lessons. The important thing is to connect those experiences to the skills and qualities of an artistic director.
This might also be a good time to talk about any unique experiences you have. Maybe you have a background in a different art form, or maybe you've worked in nonprofit management. Those experiences can add a different dimension to your perspective on leadership.
Absolutely. It's about highlighting what makes you different and showing what you bring to the table that nobody else does. Now, they might follow that up with something like, what are your strengths as an artistic director? How would you approach that?
I think it's tempting to just list off a bunch of adjectives,
Hmm.
but we need to go deeper than that, right?
For sure. Think about specific situations where you actually demonstrated those strengths. Did you manage a really complicated production? Did you get a grant for a new initiative? Did you resolve a conflict between team members?
And it's not just about what you did. It's about how you did it. Did you use your communication skills to motivate your team? Did you leverage your strategic thinking to develop a successful fundraising campaign? Give them concrete examples that show your abilities in action.
Right. And connect those strengths back to the specific things the organization needs. Do they need someone who's good at fundraising, a visionary leader, someone who's good at building teams and getting people to work together? Highlight the strengths that line up with their priorities.
And how can RoleCatcher's AI help with this kind of question?
Well, RoleCatcher can analyze the job description and identify the key skills and qualities they're looking for, and then it can help you tailor your answers to highlight the strengths that are most relevant to that specific job.
So you're not just showing off your strengths, you're showing off the strengths that they actually care about.
That's smart.
Okay, so let's move on to another question they might ask. Let's say they ask you, how do you approach selecting the artists and works that will be showcased in the organization's programs? What's the key insight there?
What they're trying to do with that question is understand your process as a curator. What's your artistic vision? How do you make decisions? And how do you balance your creative goals with the practical stuff like budget and audience?
So it's a tricky balance of art and strategy.
Exactly. You need to show that you have a clear vision for what the organization will be presenting, but also that you understand the realities of running a cultural institution.
So what are some of the things we should be thinking about when we're coming up with an answer to this question?
First, think about your artistic values. What kind of art do you believe in? What are you passionate about? And how does that fit with the organization's mission?
Okay, and then Think about your criteria for selecting artists and their works. What qualities are you looking for? Do you prioritize things like innovation or diversity or accessibility or social relevance?
And don't forget about the audience. Who are you trying to reach? What are their interests and expectations?
It's really about showing your ability to balance all of those different things. Your artistic vision, the organization's mission, the audience's needs, and the practical limits of budget and resources.
Yeah. And once again, RoleCatcher can help you customize your answer by analyzing the organization's past programming and figuring out their artistic priorities.
That's a really good tip. It shows that you've done your research and you understand their specific situation. Okay, next question. How do you balance artistic vision with financial constraints? This one seems pretty straightforward, but I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
Definitely. This question goes beyond just saying, oh, I'm good with budgets. They want to see how you make difficult choices, how you prioritize resources, and how you come up with creative solutions to reach your artistic goals without spending too much money.
So it's about being resourceful and strategic. What are some examples we could use to illustrate this?
Think about times you've had to make tough decisions to stay within budget. Did you have to scale back a production? Did you have to find different ways to get funding? Did you have to negotiate with vendors?
And how did you handle those situations? Did you get your team involved in making the decisions? Were you transparent about the challenges and the solutions?
Right. Did you find creative ways to cut costs without sacrificing the quality of the art? Maybe you partnered with another organization, or you figured out how to use existing resources more efficiently.
The key is to show that you can think outside the box. Be flexible and find solutions that work for both the artistic vision and the financial stability of the organization.
Yeah, and this is another area where RoleCatcher can come in handy. They have resources about budgeting for the arts, which can give you some valuable insights and strategies.
That's a great reminder. Okay, this next one is a big one. Could you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision as an artistic director? What are they really asking here?
I think with this question, they want to look into your leadership style and your judgment. They want to see how you handle pressure, how you consider different perspectives, and how you ultimately make decisions that are best for the organization, even if those decisions aren't always popular.
So we need a compelling story that shows our leadership in action. What makes for a good story here?
Pick a situation that was genuinely hard, where there was no easy answer. Maybe you had to cancel a program that was popular because of budget cuts. Or maybe you had to deal with a conflict between two important artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to get into the specifics. What were the things you considered? Who did you talk to? How did you weigh the pros and cons?
Right. And most importantly, how did you communicate your decision to everyone involved? Were you transparent? Did you show empathy? Did you explain your reasoning clearly?
This question is all about showing that you can handle complicated situations, make tough calls, and lead with both conviction and compassion.
And remember, it's not just about the outcome of the decision. It's about the process you went through, the lessons you learned, and how you grew as a leader.
And speaking of growth, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about career progression. RoleCatcher's Guide mentions different stages in an artistic director's career, like starting as an artistic assistant and working your way up to a junior or senior artistic director role. How can understanding these different stages help you in this interview?
Well, first of all, it shows you're thinking about the long term. You're not just focused on getting this one job. You're thinking about your whole career path. It also shows that you understand the industry and the different ways to be successful.
So even if you haven't been a senior artistic director before, you can still show that you understand the role and what you hope to achieve in the future.
Exactly. You can talk about the skills and experience you've gained in your past roles and how those things have prepared you for the next level. You can also talk about your commitment to continuous learning and professional development.
And don't be afraid to ask questions about the organization's structure and their opportunities for growth. It shows that you're genuinely interested in building a career with them.
That's a great point. Asking insightful questions can make you stand out as a thoughtful and engaged candidate.
Okay, let's get back to those interview questions. This one seems pretty simple. How do you stay up to date with trends and changes in the arts community? But I'm sure there's a right way and a wrong way to answer this.
Definitely. They're not just looking for a list of publications you read. They want to see your genuine curiosity, your commitment to lifelong learning, and your ability to make connections between different trends and ideas.
So how do we go beyond just listing our favorite art blogs?
Think about the different ways you engage with the arts world. Do you attend conferences or workshops? Do you participate in online forums or discussions? Do you network with other arts professionals?
And how do you process all that information? Do you have any methods for staying organized or tracking trends?
Yeah. Do you share what you learn with other people? Do you use what you know to inform your curatorial decisions or to come up with new initiatives?
The key is to show that you're not just passively taking in information, you're actively engaging with it and using it to shape your own artistic vision and leadership style.
And this is another area where RoleCatcher can be a valuable resource. They have a ton of information on industry trends, career development, and professional resources.
All right, let's tackle one more question before we wrap up this part of our deep dive. This one's about managing that ever-growing to-do list. How do you prioritize and manage your workload as an artistic director?
Hmm.
What's the strategic approach here?
What they really want to know is how you handle all the different things that come with this job. It's about showing that you're organized, how to manage your time, and you can delegate effectively without losing sight of the bigger picture.
So it's not just about checking things off a list. It's about being a good leader who can manage their own time and help their team do their best work. What are some details we could use to make this answer really come alive?
Well, you could talk about the specific tools or systems you use to stay organized. Like, do you have a color-coded calendar? Or a project management software that you love? Maybe you use a specific method for prioritizing tasks like the Eisenhower matrix,
Hmm.
which helps you focus on what's really urgent and important.
Yeah, and it's not just about the tools themselves. It's about how you use them, right?
Right.
Maybe you could share a story about a time when your organizational system helped you get through a really busy period, like when you were working on a big production or a fundraising campaign.
Exactly. And don't forget about delegating. Being a good leader means knowing when to trust your team with certain tasks. You can talk about your approach to delegation, how you identify the strengths of your team members, and how you empower them to take responsibility for their work.
It's about showing that you understand that an artistic director doesn't do everything themselves. They build a strong team and use everyone's talents to achieve a common goal. And how can RoleCatcher's AI help us get ready for this question?
RoleCatcher can look at how the organization is structured and find potential areas where delegation might be really important. It can also help you adjust your answer to highlight your experience in managing teams and projects, which shows that you're ready to take on a leadership position.
It's all about connecting your skills with what the organization needs. Now, this next question feels a little more philosophical. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the arts community in the next 5 years? Why are they asking this? And what are they hoping to hear?
I think they want to know if you're someone who thinks about the big picture, if you're engaged with the wider arts community, and if you're aware of the things that are shaping the future of the field. It's about showing that you can think strategically and that you understand the landscape of the industry.
So it's not just about identifying the challenges, it's about showing that you're thinking critically about them, and maybe even offering some solutions or strategies for dealing with them.
Exactly. Some of the obvious challenges might include things like getting funding, adapting to new technologies, engaging with an audience that's constantly changing, and advocating for the arts in a political and social climate that can be really complicated.
But don't just give them a generic list. Try to make your answer personal. Maybe you have a specific idea about how arts organizations can use digital platforms to reach new audiences, or how they can diversify their funding sources.
Right. Or maybe you have a unique perspective on how to make the arts more accessible to communities that haven't had as much access in the past, or how to create an arts ecosystem that's more inclusive and equitable.
This is your chance to show your thought leadership, your passion for the arts, and your commitment to making a real difference. And it's okay to be bold and share your own ideas and vision for the future.
Yeah, definitely. Show them that you're not just applying for a job, you're joining a movement. And RoleCatcher can be super helpful in getting ready for this kind of question, too. They have career guides and resources that go deep into the current trends and challenges facing the arts industry, which can give you a solid base for your answer.
Speaking of RoleCatcher, we've been talking a lot about how their AI can help with interview prep. Can you give us a concrete example of how it might work in practice?
So let's say you're working on your answer to that question about staying current with industry trends. You might put your initial response into RoleCatcher's platform, and the AI can analyze it, compare it to the job description and the organization's profile, and give you feedback. It might suggest adding some specific examples, highlighting relevant skills, or even restructuring your answer so it flows better and is easier to understand.
So it's kind of like having an editor for your interview answers, helping you polish what you want to say and make sure it connects with the interviewers.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just grammar and structure. RoleCatcher's AI can also look at the sentiment and tone of your response, making sure you sound confident, enthusiastic, and genuinely passionate about the job.
Okay, let's get back to interview prep in general. What are some final tips we can give our listener to help them feel ready to handle these tough questions?
Well, preparation is key. Don't try to wing it. Think about your experiences, your skills, your values, and how all of that aligns with the organization's mission and needs.
And practice your answers out loud. It might feel a little silly,
hmm
but it can help you catch any awkward phrasing or gaps in your logic. You can even record yourself and listen back to see how you sound.
And don't underestimate the power of storytelling. Sharing personal anecdotes and specific examples can make your answers more interesting and memorable. It helps the interviewers connect with you as a person and see you as more than just a name on a resume.
Remember, this is a conversation, not an interrogation. Be yourself, be authentic, and show your passion for the arts.
Yeah, and don't forget to breathe. It's okay to pause and gather your thoughts. And even ask clarifying questions. It shows that you're thoughtful and engaged.
And how can RoleCatcher help with those final moments of preparation?
RoleCatcher has a feature where you can practice answering interview questions in a simulated environment. You can record your answers and get feedback from the AI on how you deliver them, what you say, and your overall performance. It's like having a mock interview with a personal coach.
That's a great way to build confidence and refine your approach before the big day. Now let's shift gears a little and talk about something that people often forget about in interview prep. What happens after the interview?
Well, it's important to have a plan for following up. Send a thank you note to each person who interviewed you. Restate your interest in the position and highlight a key point from your conversation. It shows that you're thoughtful and appreciate their time.
And don't be afraid to follow up again if you haven't heard back after a reasonable amount of time. It shows that you're really interested in the job and that you're not afraid to take initiative.
Right. And while you're waiting, use that time wisely. Think about how the interview went. What went well? What could you do better next time?
And keep learning about the organization and the industry. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be for future opportunities.
Remember, the job search is a marathon, not a sprint. Persistence, preparation, and a positive attitude will help you find the right opportunity in the end.
All right, so let's wrap up this part of our deep dive with one last question they might throw your way. It's one that can catch some people off guard. Do you have any questions for us?
Pooh. Why is this question so important, and how should we approach it?
This is your chance to show that you've really done your research, that you're genuinely interested in the organization, and that you're really thinking about the role. It also gives you a chance to gather some important information so you can decide if this position is a good fit for you.
So it's not just a one-way street. It's not just them evaluating you. It's about you evaluating them too. What are some good questions we can ask to really make the most of this? Instead of asking generic things like, what's the company culture like? Try to dig a little deeper. For example, you could ask about their vision for the future of the organization, or their approach to fundraising and audience development, or their commitment to diversity and inclusion.
You could also ask about some of the specific things they mentioned during the interview, like certain initiatives or projects. That shows that you were listening and that you're really interested in what they're doing.
Yeah. Another good strategy is to ask questions that show you understand the challenges facing the organization and the industry in general. For instance, you could ask about their strategies for dealing with budget constraints, or adapting to new technologies, or engaging with an audience that's always evolving.
It shows you're not just focused on your own career goals, you're thinking about the bigger picture and how you can help the organization succeed. What about questions related to the actual job itself? What are some good questions we could ask to get a better understanding of what the position entails?
You could ask about their expectations for the person in this role, the key performance indicators they'll use to measure your success, or the opportunities for professional development and growth within the organization. You could also ask about their leadership style and how they encourage a collaborative and creative work environment.
It's about getting a feel for what it would actually be like to work there, understanding how the team functions, and seeing if your values align with theirs. So how can RoleCatcher help us come up with those final, impactful questions?
Well, RoleCatcher's AI can analyze the organization's website, their news coverage, and even their social media to identify key themes and priorities. And then it can suggest questions specifically tailored to their context to make sure your questions are relevant, insightful, and memorable.
So it's like having a research assistant who can dig up those hidden gems that you might not find on your own. Well, I think we've covered a lot today. Any parting words for our aspiring artistic directors out there?
Remember that an interview is a chance to showcase your passion, your skills, and your vision. Be prepared, be confident, and be yourself. And don't forget to use all the resources you have available, including the amazing tools and insights offered by RoleCatcher.
It's about really diving deep into yourself, into the role, and into the organization. And with the right preparation and the right mindset, you can walk into that interview feeling empowered and ready to shine. Good luck out there. You've got this out.